In the sparsely populated world of Swiss mechanical chronographs under $3,000, Longines has established itself as a leader, with the Avigation BigEye being one of the first to come to mind. With its combination of heritage design elements, a modern Swiss column wheel caliber on the inside, and wearable dimensions, it has established itself as perhaps the definitive chronograph in the segment, and in this video, we'll take a closer look at it. Let's jump into it. So before we jump into this video, if you want more things pilot watches, we have a definitive blog looking at some of the best pilot watches on the market, well over a few dozen different pilot watches there, a wide variety of different price ranges and styles. So definitely check out the link in the description down below. So with this watch being a part of the heritage collection from Longines, I think it's important to just delve into some background on this timepiece specifically. Now, modern Longines is in an advantageous position that is able to simultaneously pull from a dense archive stretching back 190 years, while also employing the watchmaking might of the Swatch Group that also encompasses ETA, the largest third-party provider of Swiss movement manufacturing. And always a prominent brand in terms of mass market, Longines has been garnering an ever-growing share of enthusiast sector in recent years thanks to beloved models like the Legend Diver, Heritage Classic Sector, a watch that I'm actually wearing on my wrist right now. And in 2017, Longines unveiled the Avigation BigEye chronograph, a watch that called back to a historic model from the 20th century that was actually presented to the brand by a collector, believe it or not. Last year, we took a look at the titanium version of the Avigation BigEye and came away impressed with the striking petroleum blue dial leading the way there, as well as that lightweight titanium case. But considering that model has a premium of $500 more, I'll argue that the standard steel variant presents even more impressive value proposition, considering that it is housing the same Swiss column wheel movement on the inside and is more directly in alignment with the original aviation design. While there are a few notable characteristics about the BigEye that makes it unique, the leading reason for it being such a compelling watch for the money has to be the L688 caliber. Now, to briefly set the stage, there are essentially only a few ways to get a mechanical automatic chronograph in this price range under $3,000. Easily the most common options are the Valjoux 7750 and 7753. Integrated calibers from ETA that together represent the most ubiquitous options on the market, often utilized by brands like Tissot, Hamilton, Rado, as well as many luxury players like Tudor and Breitling. Now, the second most common choices are Sellita, the SW500, the SW510, essentially Sellita's near direct copies of the aforementioned 7750 and 7753. Next, you have modular calibers such as the ETA 2894 that pairs a base movement with a module that provides the additional complexity and chronograph functionality. Modular executions are often less expensive than the integrated Valjoux and Sellita options, but also in many cases are not as straightforward to service for watchmakers, and typically they prefer the integrated options. In addition, all of these are more basic chronograph calibers utilizing a cam actuated system of operation that typically results in a fine yet stiffer, less premium feel when activating the pushers. Column wheel chronographs begin around $5,000 to $6,000 with products like the Black Bay Chrono, a watch that utilizes Breitling's B01, which itself is an outlier in terms of price. And that's precisely where this L688 caliber comes in. Falling underneath the Swatch Group umbrella, Longines has unique access to a wide variety of proprietary calibers produced by Swatch's powerful movement manufacturing arm in ETA. Now, the L688, officially known as the ETA A08L01, shares its base architecture with the 7753, but has a number of benefits that are not present in the basic Valjoux, while also only being available to Longines. First, the movement comes with a column wheel system that creates a more pleasing tactile response and a more precise stop and start than the cam system. In addition, the movement offers an extended 66-hour power reserve, a silicone balance spring to assist against shock and magnetic fields, and an extended 5-year warranty. And sure, people can play the game of semantics around in-house or not. However, there's no question that the presentation here from the movement is nothing short of premium. And we're very quick to give a slide to other brands that have a similar structure where they have a own subsidiary movement provider and then are producing movements, I would still call this movement more proprietary than in-house, but still very well done. In terms of operation, 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hertz, hacking and hand winding, and a power reserve of 66 hours. In terms of accuracy, we tested this one at 5 different positions. It was running at -4 to 0 seconds a day across those 5 positions. Upon first glancing at the dial, we get the reasoning behind why this one is aptly named the BigEye, with its oversized 3 o'clock 30-minute sub-register. As mentioned, this watch draws its inspiration from a model with a somewhat murky origins, allegedly dating back to the 1930s. While the exact dates, original intended use case, and the ownership history are likely lost to time, what is clear is that it is striking, legible, and refined with its dial layout that works as well today as it did decades ago. Resting beneath a dome sapphire crystal designed to evoke the feel of vintage acrylic, the BigEye showcases simple printed Arabic indices located just within a straightforward minute track, all set over a black matte primary surface. Certain indices are obstructed by the chronograph sub-registers, yet the watch maintains a clean aesthetic without feeling cluttered or offensive in its execution. Perhaps a point of criticism for some, but a plus in my eyes, the watch doesn't opt for a date, offering more room for the aforementioned enlarged 30-minute register at 3, a smaller 12-hour register at 6, and the running seconds at 9. Each of the sub-registers is slightly recessed and complete with simple printing and white hands, with a broader set of baton hands managing time-telling duties at the dial center. Dial text is really down to its rudimentary form, with just the brand wordmark and automatic text helping to limit the amount of information offered. As a note, both the indices and hands are coated with superluminova that avoids the typical propensity of brands to opt for faux lume, though the lume is average in practice. Shifting to the wear on the wrist at 41 millimeters in diameter and 48.7 millimeters lug to lug, the Avigation BigEye provides a relatively straightforward set of dimensions that seems derived to please as much of the mass market as possible, while factoring in some of the inherent limitations that come housing up a Valjoux-based caliber on the inside. Given the somewhat shorter lug to lug, the watch in my experience wears ever so slightly smaller, feeling more like a 40 millimeter on wrist, and when factoring in the dome sapphire crystal, the watch is not necessarily what you would call slender, coming in at 14.6 millimeters when measured with my calipers, though a good portion of that is coming from that crystal, making it not wear to the fullest extent of that metric. The case finishing leans into the aviation tool approach, with satin brushing being utilized across the majority of the central case and lugs that exhibit simple 90-degree angles. A large sign push-pull crown is polished for contrast and rests in the usual 3 o'clock location, with prominent pushers on both sides. In terms of water resistance, the watch only offers 30 meters of essentially splash protection, and though water resistance isn't something that would be a feature in alignment with its intended purpose, it would have been nice to see a little bit of a jump here just for peace of mind. Set between 20 millimeter lugs, the BigEye leans into a rugged looking brown leather strap with contrasting stitch that nails the 1930s aviation look while also being supple and comfortable, tapering to an 18 millimeter pin buckle with the Longines logo, complementing the details for this well-proportioned piece. So now for some final thoughts on this Avigation BigEye, some pros and cons associated with this piece, starting with maybe some drawbacks. Starting on the water resistance, would be nice to see a little bit more here, but this isn't a watch that you're gonna be jumping in the water with anyway, so probably less of an issue. Lume, I would say, is average. It's not bad, it's just maybe not as good as you would expect for some pilot watches in this lane. Would have been nice to see a little bit more performance there, but still, again, not terrible. And then one other point I'll mention is the thickness. If you look at Valjoux-based calibers across the board, I mean, those movements alone are 8 millimeters thick. When you factor in the sapphire crystal, the casing up of additional hands in the stack, also with the sub-registers, there's just more things to deal with here when casing up a watch like this. So 14.6 millimeters with the sapphire dome crystal doesn't wear to the full extent, but I think people always like their watches to be thinner if they can. But now looking at some pros, and I think the main thing that comes to mind is really why this watch is positioned the way it is with this title and often places online, is this is probably the definitive do-it-all type of chronograph from a value perspective under $3,000. Column wheel, extended power reserve, Swiss made. Then you have Longines' heritage of aviation design, which once planes were taking the air, Longines was pretty much there to respond with watches that could fit the need. So to see this in a package like that, and also with the BigEye, how perfectly and aptly named is this watch? And also the asymmetry of it for some reason it feels complete. I love the no date. The dial is just simple, it's straightforward, it's very legible, both in light and dark, despite the lume maybe not being perfect. Wearability, all things considered, is quite good. It wears like a 40mm watch. The proportions are just rock solid. And then again, jumping back to that idea, I think this is probably one of the best do-it-all watches, and especially chronographs, under $3,000. But all right, guys, that is my take looking at the Avigation BigEye. This is a watch that was one of the first from Longines that really captivated me in a special way. And it's one of the first watches that come to mind, along with the Legend Diver, the Heritage Classic sector, that I think represent the Heritage collection that is already so well done, but these are the ones that stand out to me the most. I mean, there are many to think of, but these are just pillars in their collection. What are your takes on this watch? Do you like it? Do you not like it? If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That really does help out the channel. Love to see the channel continuing to grow. Appreciate all the great feedback as well. Also, definitely check out Longines on our site. We have a wide variety of different watches from them, including the Avigation BigEyes. If you are in the market, you like what you saw here today, definitely recommend go checking those out as well. We're full authorized dealer of Longines, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But all right, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.